the ban on exclusions for pre-existing conditions? And if so, how would you pay for that? I think we can shift the order up. Why don't we start with Ken and just go down the line?
Sure. I would vote to repeal Obamacare, and I think we have to move to a patient-centered, market-based approach. And if within that market-based approach we can address the issue of pre-existing conditions, I'm absolutely in favor of doing that. I think that the most important thing we have to do is we have to look at tort reform. We have to look at interstate sale of products across state lines. We have to make sure that we are cutting down on the paperwork, and we have to get the federal government out as much as possible and create a true free market healthcare system.
Well, you're exactly right, and I agree as well. I think we need to repeal it. And there are portions of it, like the health savings accounts, that I think are probably a good area that we should keep. Those are things that have been working. I know in county government, I'm a county commissioner, that was one of the things that we instituted through in the county, and that seems to be working well. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from that. The part about the pre-existing, absolutely, we need to ensure that folks with pre-existing conditions can get health insurance. So there are some things that we need to work on, but the pooling, to be able to have insurance across state lines, those types of things are things that we need to put in there. And again, we really need to get back to patient focus, free market driven. It should be the patient and their physician who are deciding their healthcare decisions and not the federal government.
The future of healthcare today is what we're reading about in the paper with the Veterans Administration. It's sad. People are going to die well before their time. There's going to be lines. It's going to be a disaster. So not only does it have to be repealed, but we have to have a brand new system. We've never had a free market system in healthcare for a long, long time. So whether it's for bad luck or bad genes, of course, people want to be able to take their health insurance across state lines. I've met many people on planes who wanted to come live in Colorado who couldn't because of a sick child. So we need to do that. And obviously, people who are on insurance should not be kicked off willy-nilly by insurance companies. But we basically need a free market system. It works. Look at LASIK surgery. I had it years ago. The prices dropped dramatically because it's not covered by insurance. So we need to go back to the free market on health insurance the way it works in other places like car insurance.
I don't support Obamacare. It's going to be a disaster for our country once it's fully implemented. And the president keeps delaying the implementation because he's using it for politics. He wants to get through each election cycle before the people see and have to deal with the ramifications of what's going on there. So I would support every effort to repeal Obamacare. And I've done that even in the state Senate and voted against our exchange and things that we've done in the state. We do need a free market-driven policy that people can decide what they want in their policy without the government mandating certain things that they have, and that's where we need to go. I agree that LASIK is a great example of the free market and how the quality of that has increased and the costs have come down over time. And that's what would happen if government would get out of the way and allow the market to work within healthcare.
Okay, let's move to marijuana. Oh,
Sure.
do you want to,
Dominic? Just jump into the quick question. One of our sponsors of our debates, the AARP, is submitting questions for all of our congressional candidates. So let me ask you on behalf of them, how would you protect Social Security for today's seniors and strengthen it for future generations? Scott, we'll start with you. Social
Security has large problems with the unfunded mandates that or unfunded liabilities that are there. It's unsustainable at the path it's on. People, our age kind of look at it and, is it really going to be there when we're there? So we do need to reform our government in many ways. We can't have the type of entitlements that we have in the program today going forward. We have to reform. With that said, though, we've made promises to people that they are going to get something and it's going to be there for them. And so with that, we need to tackle our $17 trillion debt. We can't keep spending money the way we are on all the programs that we do within government. We have to reduce our spending, and that way we would have funds that we can go into programs that we do have debts that we need to honor. But I'd support reform for people going forward and then cutting spending so that we could continue the benefits into the future.
Steve?
Specifically, Social Security is about $30 trillion with a T. $30 trillion underfunded. It is bankrupt, it's broke, it's worse than when Greenspan said he fixed it in '83. What we have to do with Social Security specifically make assets match liabilities. One way to do that, tell everybody who got a letter last year, oh, they don't send a letter out since they're so broke. But whatever you were going to get, say you're 50 years old, you get. Then you move into another program. And all we really need to do is have one computer program, one world market that you invest in, And when people get to be a certain age, say 60, we buy annuities for people, and they buy them for themselves. When they turn 70, that's what they're going to get for the rest of their life. That way, assets will match liabilities over time. It's one of the big problems we have in America. And by the way, the AARP is a disaster on this issue. They are destroying the future of children. 20 and 30-year-old kids, if the AARP has their way, will never receive Social Security.
Barbara.
Absolutely agree that we need to reform Social Security. It is a huge unfunded liability. I mean, we have $122 trillion worth of unfunded liabilities. Social Security is just part of that, around the $30 trillion. So we're going to have to make some changes. But at the same time, we've made some promises to folks, and they're at a time in their life or an age in their life where they wouldn't be able to recover if we didn't do some kind of hold harmless provision for folks, after a certain age. And honestly, I think those are things that we're just going to have to look at. So yes, I think we're going to need to do some reform if we're talking about the future of, I have grandchildren. And I'm talking about the future of my grandchildren. We want to make sure that they have a future and that we have worked through that. So yes.
Ken.
The way to reform Social Security, in my opinion, is to start with the folks who are just entering the workforce now. The folks that we have made the promises to, we're going to keep that promise. I think we have to tell young people that we are going to take Social Security, and the Social Security retirement age is going to be linked to life expectancy. And as life expectancy goes up, the retirement age is going to have to go up. I also think we're going to have to means test at some point. And that doesn't mean that we're going to let the government start redistributing wealth again. What we have to do is allow the Warren Buffetts and those folks, they're not going to get Social Security. They don't need Social Security. We're going to have to make sure that we make it a stable program for those that are entering the workforce. But for those that are relying on Social Security and have built a retirement plan based on receiving Social Security, we don't touch it. It is going to remain the same, and it has to remain the same. And I would take 50 years old or 45 years old as the cutoff point. For those folks, they are going to get what they anticipate getting. But we make it a more creative product for younger folks.
Shaun?
So let's turn to marijuana. And Steve, we'll start with you this time. Do you support a banking co-op for the pot industry?
First of all, on Social Security, not everybody's going to get what they were promised. We will never balance the budget if we keep talking like that. Everybody in America is going to have to pay some price to balance this budget before it's too late for everybody and for my children, my 6 children. No, I don't support any banking for marijuana. I don't support people smoking marijuana legally. While it's certainly a state issue, it's a giant disaster for Colorado. We're a laughingstock around the country now. People are eating cookies and jumping out windows. Kids are showing up at school with an ounce of pot. Who thought this up? Where did we become like the worst generation to talk to people that this would be a good idea? It never should have been made legal in Colorado. We have people flying in just to smoke dope in this state. It's a disaster.
Scott, banking co-op for the pot industry?
I don't support that. I think we need to repeal. It's been hard what we've done within the state. I was in the Senate through the regulations that we've done and the struggles that we've had and the people coming in, and it's true. It is a disaster, and I wouldn't support a banking co-op.
Barbara?
No, I wouldn't support a banking co-op either. In fact, when the constitutional amendment was passed with regard to the recreational marijuana, it gave additional constitutional powers to county commissioners and to municipal leaders to allow them to ban the growing operations in the unincorporated parts of our county. And so our board actually went through and did that. We used those additional powers that were voted to us and banned them ban the grow operations in the unincorporated part.
Ken?
I was one of the chairs opposing Amendment 64 and the legalization, and I'm very sorry to see that it passed, but it did pass, and it's the will of the voters. And as a law enforcement official, I see every day businesses that are taking in $300,000, $400,000 of cash, and it is a target-rich environment for people that are drug addicts or others that want to steal money. Willie Sutton said years ago, why do you rob banks? I rob banks because that's where the money is. And that's exactly where bad people are going to go now, are dispensaries. I am not in favor of changing federal law in the banking area. I am in favor of finding a way to, through the state regulations, because this is a state issue. The state passed it, and the state's got to figure out the answer. Through state regulations, find a way to make sure that these businesses are not hoarding cash and become target-rich environments.
Eric?
Let's turn to foreign policy briefly. Obviously, the news this week has been largely of the prisoner exchange that the president negotiated for one of our guys back for 5 Taliban leaders. Charles Krauthammer, who I think many would appreciate as a leading conservative intellectual, actually came out yesterday and said he supported that prisoner exchange and would have done the same thing had he been sitting in the White House. Let's start with Barbara on this one. Do you support that prisoner exchange?
You know, certainly as a parent and as a mother, if that would have been my son, I would have been thinking, you know, this is something that needs to happen. I would have been doing everything I possibly could to try and get my son back here. But as an American citizen and looking at the exchange, and there's a reason why we have had policies in place where we don't do prisoner exchange. It's because we've just put in jeopardy every American who's going overseas. We've put in jeopardy those soldiers and folks that go and fight for us. And you know, now what are we going to do? I mean, are we going to negotiate further? I mean, are they going to start kidnapping other folks and to negotiate to get other prisoners out? I just can't support that. I think it was a mistake. I think all of the lives that were lost in putting those prisoners in Guantanamo is, you know, I'd be questioning that if I was one of those relatives and wondering what happened here. You know, my family member was doing what they were supposed to be doing, and then we just released them. So, no, I don't support that.
Ken?
I don't think we negotiate with terrorists. It's a hard reality. I have a son who is an Army officer right now and will be going to the Middle East in November, December timeframe. And I'm very aware of what parents go through and the struggles, and I can't imagine what the Bergdahls had to go through. But we shouldn't negotiate with terrorists, number one. And number two, we've got to recognize that this young man brought this on himself. He deserted. The administration lied to the American public when they said that he fell behind his platoon. That's not the way the Army or Marines or any part of our military operates. And I think it was a mistake to give 5 very dangerous terrorists up in this situation. I think it's a mistake to negotiate with terrorists.
Scott?
It is a mistake to negotiate with terrorists. This puts our country at risk, our soldiers at risk, our citizens abroad at risk. And so that's something that we need to be very, very careful when we go forward and look at this. On another front, the president broke the law. He didn't have the authority to do this without going through Congress. You know, there's a law in place that he's supposed to interact with Congress in this type of instance. And just like on many other issues, he went beyond his power and Congress failed to act. And so if I was in Congress, that would be one thing I would do, is I would hold our president accountable and make him honor the laws of our state, our nation, and going forward.
And Steve, what about the principle that we don't leave anyone behind when we leave?
Well, first of all, Charles Krauthammer must have been in Colorado smoking dope to come up with a solution like that. One of the people that we've let go, Mohammed Fazal, is wanted for war crimes, killing women and children, moving 300,000 people off their land, destroying the crops in Afghanistan. He's now back in Qatar, and they're having a celebration. So he'll be back killing Americans within a year. So Barack Obama is so far removed. This may be the final straw for even Democrats on Barack Obama's presidency. To witness, first of all, the father of the soldier speaking Farsi in the Rose Garden is a disgrace. They didn't do any work, and it looks like the President of the United States doesn't do any work on any subject that he seems to find out most of the topics on TV. It's a disgrace. We should never negotiate with terrorists.
I think we have time for a few
Just
quick-fire
lightning round. Sure,
questions
quick-fire.
here. So we'll start with you, Ken, this time. Do you support raising the minimum wage?
No.
Barbara?
No.
Steve?
Of course not.
Absolutely not.
Start with Scott and come down the panel. Gay marriage or civil unions or none of the above?
None of the above.
No to gay marriage. If people need to pass certain laws so that people can get things done, then I guess they can. But no to gay marriage.
No to gay marriage.
And on civil unions?
So none of the above, I'm sorry.
None of the above.
Personhood and any exceptions to abortion. Start with Barbara.
I signed the petitions in support of personhood, so no, I don't agree to any exceptions to abortion. And in fact, as a county commissioner, I voted to ban the Plan B abortion pill from our health clinics.
I'm a pro-life, but I have 6 children. When you see 6 sonograms of your 6 children, you tend to be pro-life. But exceptions in the case of rape, incest, or the life of the mother. Personally, I don't know why it keeps coming on the ballot. It's not going to pass, and it actually hurts many Republican candidates.
Scott?
I support personhood. I support life, and we need to support life every chance we get.
Ken?
I will be voting for Amendment 67. I am opposed to any exception other than life of the mother, and I feel very strongly that it is one of the very foundational principles of conservative politics are to be pro-life.
Start with Steve on this one, the Citizens United decision, Supreme Court decision. Good law, bad law?
We've got to get in politics to whether or not we really truly believe in free speech or we're going to regulate it. And so there's only really two ways to go, none of which we've done. One, people can give as much money as they want, whenever they want, to political candidates and take out ads themselves, or you limit every single person, not just individuals. One or the other. I favor everybody being able to do what they want for freedom's case, because I think the First Amendment's very important.
I think that's a tough decision too, because it isn't an either or, because there are so many other restrictions and regulations in place. So I would support any amount of money given to candidates or wherever they choose to support our free speech rights within this country.
Ken?
I've received the Citizens United endorsement because I am in favor of that law, and I think it's the first step of making sure that we go down that path even further. I think it is a free speech issue, and I think that free speech trumps other issues like McCain-Feingold.
I agree. It is a free speech issue, so good law.
So I think we have time for one more.
Time for one more.
Secessionist movement that took place. Did you support it, Scott?
I did not endorse either way on that or the other issue that's going to be on the ballot this year. So I did not come out and support.
Ken?
I did not support it. I supported the philosophy behind it. I think the rural areas are being ignored. I think that it was sending an appropriate message. I did not support it in the sense that I did not think it was the best move. I think attacking the problem at its core, getting to change the vote in urban areas is more important than trying to leave the state.
Barbara?
Well, obviously I supported it. I'm a Weld County Commissioner and I was at the forefront of that. And it wasn't really about leaving the state. It was about sending a message. I'm a fourth generation Coloradoan. I love the state of Colorado. It's not we want to leave the state. The question on the ballot wasn't should we succeed. It was should we pursue it and should we look into it. But it was really about sending a message because there is such a disconnect between the rural parts of this state, and I include all of Weld County in rural, and with what was going on down at the Capitol and with our Denver politicians. There just was a lot of angst, a lot of frustration, a lot of concern from folks about all of the things that were coming out of the Capitol.
There is a huge disconnect between what's happening with Governor Hickenlooper and the Democrats who control the state Senate and the state reps. They want to take away your guns. They want to raise your electric rates. They want to double them if they can. And we got to stop that. But whether there's 51 states or 75 states, this great republic has very little time left if we don't get our financial house in order.
We've come to the time for closing statements. We drew numbers before the debate started, so we will have 1 minute closing statements, starting with you, Barbara.
Thank you. And thank you for having us here today and for this opportunity. You know, from Obamacare to the EPA to the IRS to the Veterans Administration to the budget and the $18 trillion or close to $18 trillion worth of debt we have, this federal government is just not working for us. They are overreaching, they are overspending, and they are overregulating. I am the only candidate in this race who has raised on a farm and who has made a living from farming. This is a huge agricultural district. I think that's important that we have somebody who understands agriculture and understands the challenges that farmers and ranchers meet. I'm also the only candidate in this race who has successfully started my own small business and ran that for 15 years. And I'm also the only candidate who has served as a county commissioner and also as a state executive director who has cut budgets. In our county, we balance the budget. And in our county, we also don't have any debt. We also give a Tabor refund back to the folks in our county. It's equated to about $278 million over the last 10 years. It's that type of fiscal sanity that I would take to Washington with me. I've been endorsed by former Governor Bill Owens, and he has supported me, so has over 45 local government elected officials. And the reason for that is because they trust me and they know I can get the job done. I would appreciate your vote.
Ken.
Thank you. As Weld County District Attorney, I wake up every day knowing I get to go to work and do the right thing. And the right thing in this case is to make sure that we don't have more big government. Big government is the root of our problems. It's the cause of Obamacare. I want my children, I want your children to make sure that they grow up in a better America. And that America doesn't allow the NSA to spy on us. It doesn't allow the government to treat terrorists in Guantanamo better than our veterans at Veterans Administration hospitals. It doesn't allow the Department of Education to force Common Core down the throats of parents. We have to make sure that you can choose the blend of ethanol and gas in your car. We have to make sure that the state government does the job of the state government, that parents can choose the education that their children have. And we have to move away from this big government philosophy. If we attack spending at the federal level, we will attack the root of the problem. And $17 trillion of debt and over $100 trillion of unfunded liabilities is ridiculous. And I also ask for your vote to be your next congressman from the 4th Congressional District.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you for having us today. I'm Scott Renfroe. I'm a small business owner from Weld County. My father started a company 42 years ago, and then we've started several other small business ventures through Weld County. So I know what it's like to make those tough decisions and the burdens of regulation that government's put on us. I've also had the honor to serve for 8 years as the state senator from Weld County. And through serving in Weld County, I know what the issues are across the county and the entire district, from the rural ag to the cities, to the water issues, to every issue we've talked about here today. And I've had to vote day in and day out on those issues in the Colorado Senate. And what I can tell you is I haven't changed. One of the frustrations people have today with politicians is they'll promise you one thing in a debate or on the campaign trail, and then they go to DC and they change and they're different and they do things that you said, what in the world were they thinking? Well, I've served 8 years in the Colorado Senate, and I am the same person as when I started. I might be a little wiser and hopefully a little more eloquent and educated on issues, but I'm still the same person fundamentally, and that's the person that you would send if you'd give me the honor to represent you in the 4th Congressional District. I'll stand firm on every issue that are bright and that this district believes in. So I'm Scott Renfroe, and I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
And Steve?
Thank you so much for listening tonight. I'm Steve Laffey. I'm just a kid from a troubled family, the first one to ever go to college in my family. I went to Harvard Business School when I was 22, and from there, by the time I was 38, I was helping run a large financial company. I fix large financial problems, and the nation has a doozy. It's the largest one in the world. And we need people in Congress today who understand how to fix financial problems. My only other time in public service was turning my hometown around, about the size of Greeley, from near bankruptcy to a well-run city. Fought with the public sector unions and turned the city around. I'm an author of a book called Primary Mistake, and many of you received my movie, Fixing America. But I urge you to go to my website, stevelaffey.com, before you vote, and see how different it is from anybody's in the country. I have 1 hour, 1 minute, 3-minute videos about specific solutions, no platitudes, no cliches, specific solutions that we have to do to fix this great country of ours. I'm Steve Laffey. I've got 6 children. We homeschool them. I'll be fighting for you down there and fighting for term limits and getting rid of John Boehner as Speaker of the House.
Well, that is all the time we have for our look at the Republican primary in the 4th Congressional District. I'd like to thank our candidates for joining us: Ken Buck, Barbara Kirkmeyer, Steve Laffey, and Scott Renfroe. I'd like to thank my fellow panelists, Eric Sondermann and Shaun Boyd. If you'd like to find out more information about any of the primary races, please visit our websites at cpt12.org or cbs4denver.com. Be sure to tune in every Friday night starting this September as Colorado Decides takes a look at all the big issues and races on the 2014 general election ballot. For everyone here at Colorado Public Television, I'm Dominic